Hi, Ryan. When you reviewed the film of the offensive line and talked with Coach Fry and Coach Phil, but I'm sure, like, what did you like, what didn't you like, and were there some miscommunication issues there?
Yeah, I mean, not going to get into like crazy details on it all, but I felt like they needed to play better in the run game. I think we were only 50% efficient overall on first and second down running the ball, so that's not good enough. They certainly did give us some things that maybe we weren't expecting, but even when they did, I didn't think we handled it as well as we could have. So getting back to work on that this week.
They obviously had some good players on defense. How much do you attribute it to their D coordinator being here last year, kind of knowing you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, listen, there was times where that didn't play into account at all, and we got to execute better. It's just the bottom line. And I think what happens sometimes is when you get into preseason camp and you run plays and it goes on to the next period or the next drill, you don't quite feel the consequences of not executing at a high level, and that's what happened on Saturday, especially in the situational things. But we got off schedule in the run game, and we can't do that.
Ryan, you guys had 10 possessions on Saturday, never less than 11 last year. I think you averaged around 13 last year. Just your level of concern there?
I mean, I don't know if it's a concern, but it is different. And I also felt like we were on the sideline a little bit more. It just seemed like the game moved slower for whatever reason. But it is what it is. We all have to deal with it. But like I said to the team, it means we have to be more and more efficient. And you might get less possessions in that first half, and so they got to count. And then when we get into halftime, we can't panic. We have to know that, okay, maybe we had one less possession, especially if we defer, and then we got to play really well in the second half. So if you're executing well and converting on third down and doing a good job in the red zone, it's not an issue. If you're not, then it is. But I think to your point, you have to be more and more on top of your execution, because I feel like even 5 years ago, we were getting, like you said, 12 and 13 possessions. You missed one here or there. Okay, we're going to get the ball back and have another opportunity. Not the case right now.
Yeah, 15 against Indiana last year. How do you just keep from chasing possessions?
Yeah, it's just a different feel. So we had 15 last year and 10 this year. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of football. But it is what it is, and so we have to do a good job of executing early, because that's going to determine the outcome of the game probably more than in the past because of the new rule. So, it doesn't matter when you're executing. So that's what we're going to focus on.
Right next door, Pat Murphy, 24/7 Sports.
Ryan, you mentioned that, I think it was media day, that you wanted to make sure that you couldn't look down at your stat sheet and see that Marv wasn't getting the targets and whatnot. And I think he had 8 targets. I assume you included Mecca with that. How do you, other than just passes on target, not dropping balls, get them more involved in the offense going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was 8 targets, and there was a couple other things that we had designed where maybe they took him away, which is going to happen, and that's where guys like Cade and Julian are going to have to step up, because that is going to happen this season. But we're going to continually find ways to be creative and try to get him the ball. I thought we did do that. We targeted him some. If we connect on a few of those and the touchdown and a few of those, you probably feel a little bit different coming out of the game. But again, with the number of plays, I think we threw it maybe 36 times in the game. He wasn't in the last drive. We're just going to have to really be on point. And I think that's probably the overall, sentiment right now, is that, you just got to make sure everything's really efficient, everything's really thought out. But teams are going to take him away too. So when that happens, that's part of where other guys got to step up. And when we've been at our best, when we had, we've had weapons all over the place, other guys have stepped up so that they can't just take one guy away.
Right next door, Brendan Gulick, Buckeyes Now.
Coach, I assume when you sat down with Kyle, there's some feedback that you give him, and I assume you ask him for some self-assessment. How did he seem to feel about the way he performed?
You just kind of ask, how do you feel? How did it go out there? And I think we both felt the same way. There was some good moments, some good throws, some other things that you wish you had back. When you look at first-time starters here in the past, I mean, that was probably similar. Would have liked to seen him get more snaps. I'd like to see Devin get more snaps in the game. That didn't happen just because of number. of plays that just didn't quite get over 70. You'd like to get into that area, but I think that there was a lot of things to learn from, but also some good plays as well. So it was good enough to win in this game, which is the most important thing. And that's not just Kyle. It's the offense across the board. It won't be good enough moving forward to reach our goals.
On the defensive side, Sonny Styles played a lot, and it felt like he was in lots of different places on the field. How do you see his role evolving? Is he more of a defensive back? Is he more of a linebacker? Do you want him to be sort of a combo in that regard?
Yeah, you like to have him on the field a lot because he can do so many things. If you get to the point where he can't do one of the job responsibilities well enough, then that's when you have to sub in, either a nickel or a bigger guy. But when he can do, both of those things well, can cover, can blitz, can fit the run, then that gives you so much more flexibility and gives Jim the opportunity to now not have to do as much subbing. We do have really capable guys there. Cam Martinez and Cody Simon are ready to go, and so we'll use those guys. They're weapons for sure. But Sonny gives you that versatility.
Right in front of Andy Anders, 11 Warriors.
Yeah, it seemed like, you guys threw out a lot of different formations, a lot of different tactics on the offensive side, whether it was the two-back stuff, whether it was 5 receivers with Xavier. At this point in the year, is it, I guess as the year progresses, I'm asking, is it going to be more of rolling through a lot of those things, or are you throwing a lot of different things out there to try and find an identity for the team?
Yeah, I think that, I think we have an idea of what our identity will be on offense, but at the same time, every year is different. We have multiple backs, we have multiple receivers. We know where we need to be as the season goes on. We have different quarterbacks this season. So, we want to look at different things and see where it goes. I think we learned some things on Saturday. So we'll start to go down different paths. But, having different groupings out there does bring a lot of benefit on offense. And so we'll keep looking at those things and, make sure that we're doing it. But ultimately, it comes down to execution. And if we're doing too many things, we can't execute them well enough, then, then we got to cut back.
Right in front of Stephen Means, Cleveland.com.
Right, I think there were 2 situations where it was a 3rd and 2, and you ran it, and then you didn't get it, and then you throw it on the next play. The first time you get it, and the second time is the interception. Obviously, you're not going to give me the entire game plan here, but when you're in those situations, those 3rd and short situations, or even 4th and short situations, what goes into whether you're going to run it or you're going to pass it?
Well, I think both of those, again, not giving away too many things, but both of them were 3rd and 2 or a really long one. And I felt like, if you can get to 4th and 1, then you can run it again. But when you call it on 3rd and 2, when you get 0 both times, and now it's 4th and 2, which I believe it was at least a long one, you don't have a lot of confidence that you're going to get 2 yards. And that's really what it came down to.
So, I guess, why not just run the 4th down play on 3rd down, I guess, is what...
Well, we have to establish the run here, and we have got to get downhill. We got to move people, and we got to be physical. We can't be relying on the pass all the time. That's just not the way we're going to be here. So, at some point, you got to get up there, draw a line in the sand, and say, we're going to move people. Now, didn't happen, so that's why we got to do a better job this week.
Second row right, Bill Landis, Rivals, the podcast.
Ryan, is your quarterback plan the same this week? Start Kyle and try to get Devin in if you can.
Yeah, yes, but try to get Devin in more. And as the week goes on, we'll continue to evaluate it based on how they practice. But yeah, I would have liked again to get Devin in the game, but like I mentioned after the game, I want to do what was best to win the game at the time. That was the first goal. I felt like that was the right thing to do. A little bit was gut, quite honestly. I can't sit here and tell you I have the analytics and the right way to do that, but this week would love to get Devin in some more.
So I guess I'm just trying to clarify maybe then the situation, because I think the impression going into Saturday might have been this competition is carrying into the season. We're going to let them both play, and sort of how they perform on the field in games is going to decide ultimately who is the starter long term. Is that not the case? Is it to Kyle is the starter, and you're going to try to play Devin when you can? Yeah, I'm trying not to get, draw too many hard lines when it comes to this right now. Honestly, I talked to the guys about saying that, our goal is to be a really good quarterback room and win games. And then as these, first few games start to develop, we get a better feel for what that looks like. Learned some things about Kyle on Saturday. Saw some things that were really good. Saw some things that he's got to improve on. Again, disappointed that we couldn't get more on the field with Devin. But,
But hopefully this week we can and continue to evaluate it. But Kyle will start again this week, and then we'll keep going from there.
Right behind him, Dylan Davis, Delaware.
Is that, just to kind of piggyback on what Bill was asking, I guess, how do you weigh wanting to get Devin in the game, but if Kyle is the guy you're going to put on the field first, every snap he takes is important in his development. So
Sure.
I guess how do you weight getting Devin time, but
Yeah,
making
that's
sure
that's what we're working through now. Yeah, it's if it was an easy answer, I'd give it to you, and I think that's what's unique about this season. And so, I wanted to see if we could get into a rhythm, in the throwing game a little bit with Kyle and some of the receivers. We do that in practice, I thought at times we did, other times we didn't, but we got to find that right formula because it's a long season.
Right behind him, Andy Backstrom, Letterman Row.
Ryan, you talked about not wanting to be reckless in week one, getting out of there with a win. When do you flip that switch from being conservative, like you said, to being more aggressive? Does that happen in week 2, week 3, or does that happen later in the season?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. It's probably the art of coaching is figuring that out and figuring how much and how aggressive we can be. I think that's trust over time has a big part to do with the quarterback. It has a lot to do with the offensive line. I think that the more trust that we all have in them, the more we can let it rip. But my job is to make sure we win games here. And when the defense is playing well, and we have some inexperienced guys in there, you got to make sure you do what's right and make sure you get on that plane with a win. It's not always pretty, not always fun, frustrating at times, but at least we get to check that box. Now we got to identify the areas we got to improve on.
Right behind him, Cameron T. Robinson, the athletic.
Ryan, Chip has done a little bit of everything between his time here and at Arizona State. And then Saturday you put him out there as a lead blocker at times. What did you see this offseason that stood out that you thought Chip could be a guy who, I know you want to use these running backs in different ways, but could be a lead blocker as well?
Well, you look at his versatility. He can do everything. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He had a really nice catch on that third down. And I thought Kyle did a nice job of extending that play. He's big and strong. He can block. You saw him as an insert fullback. I say fullback. He's not a fullback. He's just a big running back. And there's a lot of things that you can do with that in protection. And then you saw him, just running the ball from the backfield. When you can do a lot of those things, then you can really create stress on a defense. And you saw us do that with Xavier last year. You saw us do that in the third down. At the end of the first, second half, we'll continue to build on those packages. And the more versatility you have, just like Sonny Styles, those guys, those hybrid kind of guys, they give you a lot of things. And so excited to see where that goes. I think the one thing we just always have to be careful of is, when those guys can do a lot, you can do a lot too. We have to make sure we're doing what we do really well and playing fast.
You used G. Scott a lot in that the two tight end sets. How much has he grown as a blocker from really just throughout his career, but especially from last year now?
Yeah, when you move to tight end, it's a process. That's probably the most developmental position there is in football, in my opinion. You have to be able to run routes like a receiver, block like an offensive lineman, and protect like a running back. And he invested. When he made that move, he knew it was going to be a 2-year investment, and that wasn't easy for him. But he's put the work in. He's out there every day. He works really hard in practice, and he deserves to be on the field. I think he played maybe 25 snaps or something like that, and so that was the first time he's played that many snaps. And that's a new feeling for him that he's evaluating and figuring out the things that he needs to improve on. But it was a start for him.
Far right, Adam King, WBNS 10 TV.
Coach, you kind of going off what Andy said, the aggressiveness, not just in the play calling. Obviously, with the young quarterback, you don't just want to be throwing into one-on-one coverage and hoping that it lands with Marv. But when do you hope for a quarterback to start taking those shots and trusting his receivers?
Well, I mean, we threw some that we missed, and I think if you connect on those, you're probably more likely to call more and you get into a rhythm. When you don't, you kind of look up and it's an incomplete pass and the clock's not running, and you need that thing to run to make sure you're leaving with a win. So I think it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and I think if we can be on schedule running the football and getting 4 yards and being in 2nd and 6 as opposed to 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 9, that makes a big difference as well. So I think it all goes together with the execution, and I think the more our guys work and the more we play, certainly the more aggressive we'll be.
You talk about the clock running. playing. Just what were your thoughts kind of during the game when you would look up and see how fast the game was moving?
Yeah. I had an idea. We talked about it before the game as a team, but you feel it. You do. And so we just got to handle it and have a plan for it.
Front row, or right in front of Clay Hall, WSYS.
Are you fortunate to have two FCS teams here now and maybe get some of the kinks out or start to stick your chest out, get in a rhythm of some sort?
I think we only have one, right?
Correct.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think it's really it's rarely about our opponent. Certainly, sometimes it is, but we've got a lot of guys that need to get reps and we need to play. So, looking forward to this week. Looking forward to getting more film out there so we can just roll. But I know our guys are excited to have the first home game and certainly being an Ohio University, and certainly with Coach Tressel and his history there, being the president, it's going to be a good afternoon, and we got a lot of respect for the university. But for us, it's about us. It's about us trying to get better and get more film out there and figure out, where are we improving? Because a lot of people say you improve immensely from week 1 to week 2, and I think that's important. And it's certainly going to be important on Saturday, but it's important during the week. Today's a Tuesday practice for us. We got to have a great practice. We got to really address the issues, because when you have that first game, there's certain things that you make assumptions on that you're right on. There's other assumptions that you make that maybe you were wrong on, and then you got to go from there. And I think that's probably why people make that comment about week 1 and week 2.
How important is it this defense can carry or play lights out each week to take the pressure off the offense?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really look at it like that. I think that everyone's got to hold up their end of the bargain here, and when we're playing complementary football, then we can be the best team in America. But it was great to see the defense get out there and play the way they did. Certainly have bigger challenges coming, but it was a great start. And anytime you can hold a team to 3 points when they're running an offense that you hadn't prepared for, great job, great start. And I think you can see what I saw during the offseason when I came in and said, I'm seeing these guys fly around. You're seeing length, you're seeing speed, and just playing more decisive. And that happened on Saturday. So it was just a start, but we'll go from there.
Right in front of him, Tom Berry, WBNS 10 TV.
Coach, how tough is it? There's only one way to get game reps, and that's playing in the game. And as you have said, this is kind of uncharted waters with these two quarterbacks.
Yeah.
How do you get the obviously they got to get the confidence and they got to get it. Are you seeing that with Kyle right now? You want to see it with Devin. And how long till traditionally do you think the game starts to slow down for them? And where is their confidence level right now?
Well, I think it takes a little bit of time when you're seeing things that are in real time, and you're actually getting hit in the pocket, and everything becomes real. And it takes, I don't know how many reps. It's different for each guy. Some guys can step right in and it just kind of goes quickly. Other guys, it takes more time. I think each guy is unique. I think both guys feel like they can run the offense. I think both guys want to play, and so I think that the confidence of that is great. They just really haven't done a lot of it, so I think that's just the missing piece.
Front row right, Austin Ward, Rivals, the podcast.
Brian, you said something really interesting about the leap maybe from week 1 to week 2, which could be wrong assumptions. Are there any of those you feel like you saw on Saturday, wrong assumptions that you had?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean it's like that every year. You go into the first game and there's certain things that you think that are going to happen that don't happen, or you think that aren't going to happen that do happen, and then you have to adjust from there. I mean that. It's very, very, common for the first game, but yeah, there's definitely things out there that we learned on Saturday.
What's the line between figuring out what they are from a small sample size, seeing because you said mixed bag a bunch on Saturday, and I asked you about that after the game, but there was probably potential in every single unit. How do you determine what's real and what isn't from that amount of reps? Yeah,
you go on your experience and what you see on the film, and you can't go off anything else. And what you see on film is what you are. You know, a famous coach said that all the time. I mean, your opinion of who you are is one thing, but what you see on film is actually what you are. And each coach has to identify that, each coordinator, the head coach. I mean, ultimately, it all comes back on me. So we have to go with what we see on film and, you know, make the corrections and then project it from there.
Far left, Whitney Harding, WCMH.
Ryan, when you schedule some of these games between, let's face it, the Big Ten or the bigger games, some of these smaller schools present something that is maybe something you want to face or work on. Might be too early in the week to ask, but is there something Youngstown State does that you guys would be good to prepare and get ready for specifically?
I mean, I think we're going to focus on playing really, really hard and executing really well and being clean. They have very good coaches, and they do a really nice job. I mean, they you know, you put on the film from last year against Kentucky. They played them really well. It was 31-0, and I forget what the score was at halftime and what the second half looked like. But they ran around and played hard and got to Levis a few times, and so I mean, they're going to come in here and play really, really hard. And these are Ohio guys, a lot of them that have a lot of pride. So we're going to focus on matching that intensity, bringing it, playing really hard, and executing at a high level. And certainly some schematic things that we're going to focus on, but that'll be the biggest focus this week.
This may be a little bit out of left field, and when you're on the field, you may not notice this. It'll be the first game without Bob Kennedy in the PA role. I don't know if you ever met Bob or all that, but your thoughts maybe on that legacy and what it's going to be like to have a different voice.
Yeah, a lot of respect for, like you said, the legacy that he left behind, and for so many now, I guess year 7 for me, and for so many others, decades of hearing that voice on game day. It is going to be very different. It kind of comes with all the other traditions at Ohio State. So he will be sorely missed, and certainly did leave a lot behind and gave a lot to Ohio State.
Second row left, Steve Hellwager, 24/7 Sports.
Yeah, Coach, I want to ask you about a couple guys maybe we didn't get to see. Jihad Carter, there was a lot of talk maybe he would start there at safety, and I don't think he played. Is everything okay with him? Or
Yeah.
Do you expect him in the next game or two to see some action? Or
I do. Yeah, he needs to have a good week of practice, but we hope to see him play this week.
Xavier Johnson was a pretty big part of the offense last year. Is this an indication more that Fleming and Tate are, where they are in the position with that group, and that, or Xavier's still trying to get all the way back?
I think it's a good point because, when you look at a couple of the groupings that we had with the 3 tight ends that we had in 22, where we had Chip in there, and then you get into some of the other groupings in 11 and 12, there's only so much you can do. And, X is going to play this year. He's going to be a big part of our offense. He didn't get as much as you would have liked. I think that's probably if you say one of my biggest concerns about, the number of possessions coming down, the number of plays across the country coming down is, we have a lot of guys who deserve to play. And so, the number of touches, the number of plays for some of these guys, that does concern me. But Xavier deserves to play, and he will, and he'll get his opportunities.
Third row left, Dan Hope, 11 Warriors.
Ryan, what did Josh Proctor do to earn the opportunity to start, and how do you feel like he performed out there?
He's been consistent, and that's something that's always been a focus for Josh, is his consistency. When no one ever really questioned his effort, and so he needs to be a major contributor for us. He needs to be consistent, and that's somebody who's been in the program as long as he has. That's what he needs to bring. And so he's played a lot of football games. You think back on even when he was young. So we need that, and then Malik and Jihad will also be back there in that position. Jihad can kind of move to the bandit where Lathan is, but we need him to be consistent, and we need him to be a veteran guy. And he showed up. Yeah, he graded out a champion and played well.
See Josh continuing to be the starter there?
Yeah. I mean, unless something comes up here, but I mean, I think you'll see those other guys play. But Josh right now, has earned the right on the field to be the starter.
Deep right, Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
Brian, it seemed like there was some, maybe not chemistry issues, but just a little bit off with some of the wide receivers. Kyle and Cade seemed to be really clicking on Saturday. Have you seen that, and how much does that help your offense, where if he can get the ball to Cade, maybe it opens up other things where you might have thought the opposite at the beginning of the season, where the receivers would open up for Cade?
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case just in general what you said, but it seemed like that maybe was on Saturday for whatever reason. I think maybe that's because Cade's finding himself in some one-on-one situations. A couple of the ones he was down the field on a linebacker, and that's a good matchup for us. I thought he did a nice job in 1 3rd down, or I think it was in the 2-minute. He really wiggled free and created some separation. That's been an emphasis for Cade. But I don't think that's something that we've seen consistently over preseason camp where there's more chemistry there than anybody else. I just think that presented itself in the game.
Seems to be running really crisp routes. Have you seen that develop? It seemed like last year he was really focusing on that, and this year, like Saturday especially, he looked very crisp.
Yeah, it's been a huge emphasis for Cade. He wants to be versatile, and we know that he's going to be in one-on-one situations a lot on 3rd down. It's been a major emphasis about, like you said, getting down the field with more urgency, big strides, crisp with his routes, and he's a big target. That's friendly for a quarterback. So if he can create enough separation and play big, then that's going to help us on 3rd down especially. But that has been an emphasis for him in the offseason.
Second row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
Did anyone on the offensive line grade a champion on Saturday?
Yeah. I believe it was Josh Fryer.
Just one out of the 5 graded champion. You knew that there was going to be an adjustment period for Josh Simmons coming to this level. You kind of evaluate what you saw from him specifically and what needs to be better going forward.
Yeah, again, the word is consistency. He did some good things. You can see it. You can see the athleticism, but just not consistent enough for what we need.
It seemed like there were times when I know you want to run a lot of 12 anyway, but the way you guys were using that at times maybe to help fortify that a little bit. How much of that can you do while also being true to what you want to be as an offense? Is there a point where you have to stop doing that?
I don't know if we'll ever stop. We've always had 12 as part of our package, but you saw a little bit of 13 and 22 in there. Really trying to establish running downhill. Didn't quite get exactly what we wanted there, but so there were some good things in there. We hit the 3rd down, 2 touchdown runs, I believe it was, and we know, in the red zone and short yardage, we're going to need those runs. So. And then we also, spread it open in a bigger set. Tried to get Marvin in a one-on-one. We didn't connect on it, but we did get the one-on-one that we wanted. Just didn't execute it well enough in the red zone. But yeah, I think you have to evaluate all those things. What is the best personnel groups moving forward? And just because it's something we've done in the past doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the same moving forward. But we're not going to bang our head against the wall either.
Right in front of him. Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, you mentioned assumptions. Austin asked you about it. Are you willing to specify what maybe those assumptions were that you?
Yeah,
I'd
rather not. Yeah, I'd rather not get into it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask you more about the offensive line. With those 3 new starters, you probably knew it's going to take some time. Practice is practice. Were you overall disappointed in what you saw, or when you watched it, did you think, okay, these are fairly correctable, easily correctable things, or think, okay, we got a real issue here?
Yeah, I don't see anything on the film that isn't correctable. Like guys just getting flat out beat or not good enough. So that is the most encouraging thing. I think they are things that can get corrected. Would have loved to see better execution, but the things that we've seen there are all correctable.
His first start, what would you want to say about it?
Not bad. Yeah. I mean, I was encouraged overall. He did not grade out a champion, but for the first road game at center with everything going on, I thought he called a decent game. There was a couple things that were a little funky in there, but overall was okay. And now you get that first game under your belt. Hopefully, now moving forward, you can really focus on now what really matters as opposed to the question marks of your first game. What is that all going to feel and look like?
And we'll wrap things up with Tim May on 3, Letterman Row, Tim May podcast.
Thanks, Jerry. Ryan, as you sit here right today and you're thinking about that, we're dissecting this game like you wouldn't believe, but it appeared that Kyle didn't have I'd call a full leash maybe from a read standpoint, because you could look at a Marvin Harrison Jr. breaking wide open down the seam and he had jumped. Then there was that time when you guys were at the goal line and Marvin's one-on-one with a corner and everybody else is way over here. Y'all still ran the ball or whatever it was on that play. I think you came back with the fade the next play, but it got broken up. But I guess how short of a leash was Kyle on? in terms of reading and throwing the ball where the guy's wide open and or changing a play? That's a lot now.
No, I know what you're asking. I mean, we have plays that are full field progressions. We have other plays that are kind of 1 to 2, and we have all of those in the arsenal. And there are certain plays where I think we did a decent job of reading it and getting it to where it goes. Other parts where we got to continue to see it a little bit better. But overall, I thought it was pretty well done. To sit here and say that we have everything that we had for CJ last year in how we're doing things right now. No, that's not it. But we didn't have that for him as he was a starter, 2 years ago either. So the more we can execute, the better we can see the things and make sure our eyes are right and deliver the ball and execute the plays. Then the more we can build on it. But we want to make sure that we're doing the right things for our guys, and that's up front and in the passing game to execute them. That's our job as coaches, is to put in the right environment to be successful. So hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and the other thing, critics are all over the place, of course, about, why didn't he name a starter and just go with this guy? What's the quandary about between him and Devin? You've explained this to us several times. Devin deserves this look, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way he's played. Are you writing this textbook as you go about how you come up with a starter in this kind of situation? I mean, does it feel like that?
Yeah, like I said, when you watch Devin, I mean, he deserves to play, and he's played that way throughout preseason camp. The first game came and Kyle started, and he'll continue to play. He's going to start in the next game, and maybe there's more clarity moving forward. But until we get into these games, it's really hard to do that. I'd love to say, Kyle's a starter and Devin's not going to play, but that's not the case, and that's not fair to him either. It's not fair to the team, So, I mean, I don't have, like I said, I do not have a crystal ball. I don't know what it's going to look like. I wish I did. I know everybody wants to know what it's going to look like, but we'll just keep grinding on this thing and keep trying to find wins, because we know it's a long season, and ultimately we have to find out what is best for our team. We felt like we had to go get a win on Saturday. I wish it was cleaner across the board. It wasn't, but we got the win, and now we identify the things we got to get better at and see what it looks like this week. Yep.